Ginder. Thank you so much for continuing to walk forward and understanding more and more of God's heart for the nations. We've been asking missions questions here. Another important missions question, of course, is where? Where missions? And the short answer to that question is wherever Jesus tells you to go, that is where you should be. There are lost people everywhere, and He is inviting you to share your testimony with them, share the gospel with them wherever they are. And yet, we want to go a little bit deeper with this question, where missions? And I think as we do that, it would be helpful to remind ourselves of a quote from Dr. Ralph Winter. He said, "All people are equally lost, but not all people are equally needy." So I love that because it affirms that whether the people are here locally or way over there, they're equally lost. And we would add to that, equally loved by God, right? But there is also the reality that some people have little or no access to the gospel. They're not equally needy. And so as we've been talking about this in mission circles, somebody came up with the imperfect but helpful term 1040 window. Maybe you've heard this term before, the 1040 window. And it's just referring to a zone between 10 degrees latitude and 40 degrees latitude, right over the North Africa into the Middle East and into Asia. And this zone, the 1040 window, is the most unreached part of the world today. Only about 3% of the missionaries are going there, but the vast majority of the unreached people groups are also in that window. So we need to keep that in mind as we ask and answer the question, where are missions? Another helpful thing to keep in mind is that there's a difference between countries and nations, at least in terms of how the Bible is defining these things. Countries, we know, oh yeah, there's 195 countries, but those are zones created by man-made political boundaries, right? But Jesus said, go make disciples of all nations. And the word He used there was not countries, it was ethne, which is referring to smaller groups of people who define themselves in terms of their language, their culture, their caste, their religion, things like that. And so you can have a country that has many nations inside of it, right? And so we need to keep that in mind because people groups are kind of like ponds. You could have two ponds really close together, right? And if I throw a rock in this pond, we know that it's not automatically going to create ripples in this pond over here. So the world is more like a waffle where we need some gospel syrup for each section of the waffle, and it's not just going to flow naturally, automatically over the pancake. So I want to challenge you to go into the Digging Deeper section and download the app from Joshua Project that will help you learn about and pray for unreached people groups. There's also one there from Operation World where you can pray for countries, but Joshua Project has helped us understand that in the world today there are over 17,000 nations, 17,000 people groups, and there are over 7,000 of those nations or people groups that are considered unreached in that they have a very small percentage of evangelical Christians that are not strong enough to reach their own people group yet. So let's keep in mind the difference between countries, man-made political boundaries, and ethne, people groups, as we answer the question, where are missions? But today also there are other factors that really impact the answer to the question, where are missions? For example, today there is massive migration and rapid urbanization happening in the world today. So, massive migration. People are moving across from place to place like never before, internally displaced because of war, traveling for security, traveling for education and jobs, and that has led to also rapid urbanization, people moving into the cities at an alarming rate. And in those cities, so today actually is the first time in history where the majority of the world's population actually live in the cities. And that we have to take into account because it comes with unique challenges and opportunities. The challenge, of course, is that the people are no longer just in their ponds, they're all mixed up together in the city. And that changes how we do our missions. But also there's an opportunity in that many times those people have come from really unreached areas and are now trying to make life work in a new environment and are open to new ideas and accessible to the gospel in ways that they weren't before. So this is just a really brief introduction to some tools that might help us as we ask and answer the question, where are missions? Thinking about the 1040 window, thinking about the fact that all people are equally lost, but not all people are equally needy, making a distinction between countries and nations or ethne, and then also realizing that the world is changing rapidly with massive migration and rapid urbanization. So I want to challenge you to take a moment to download those apps and start to learn about and pray for unreached people groups, specifically the Joshua Project app. And then also take a moment and try to share this idea of the difference between countries and nations with 2 or 3 friends and family. All right, God bless you in your journey as you continue to learn more and more of God's heart for the nations and your part in it.
Mentoring Missions Advocates. This is globalcastresources.com.